the legacy of mothers, and the high tea tradition. The morning sun began to filter through the windows of the family home, casting a warm and gentle light over the living room where Bill sat, or rather, where Bill had successfully merged with the fabric of the sofa. It was one of those quiet weekend moments that usually preceded a storm of family activity. His son approached him with the cautious steps of someone who knew that waking a sleeping giant, even a friendly one, required a strategic opening. The young man stood there for a moment, watching his father's eyes drift shut, before finally deciding to speak. He whispered a soft call to his father, asking if he could help with something really quick. Bill, without opening his eyes, gave a faint verbal confirmation that suggested he was present in spirit, if not in physical energy. The son noticed the immediate transition from a conscious reply to a simulated state of deep slumber. He pointed out that his father could not simply answer him and then pretend to be asleep. It was a classic move in the household, a defensive maneuver against chores or complex questions. Bill finally gave in, sighing as he asked what was needed. The son began to explain that he was trying to figure out a plan, but he stopped mid-sentence when he realized his father was drifting off again. With a clever smirk, the son remarked that he guessed he would not tell his father about the delicious ham he had found. The word ham acted like a magical incantation. Bill's eyes snapped open instantly as he demanded to know the location and details of said ham. The son laughed, revealing there was no ham, but now that he had his father's undivided attention, he could get to the heart of the matter. The problem was Mother's Day. The son felt a deep sense of guilt over the previous year when he had given his mother what he described as some stupid flowers. This year, he wanted to give her something truly nice, something that showed real effort and thought. Bill looked at his son with the weary wisdom of a man who had navigated the treacherous waters of gift-giving for decades. He warned his son that he was heading down a dangerous path. In Bill's philosophy, the secret to a happy life and a happy marriage was to set the bar as low as possible. The son misunderstood at first, thinking his father meant starting small and then getting something a tiny bit nicer every year. Bill corrected him quickly. He explained that one must set the bar low and leave it there forever. To illustrate his point, Bill shared his own strategy for his own mother. Every year, he would show up at her place bright and early with a gift that featured his own face on it. He listed his previous successes: a Bill t-shirt, a Bill coffee mug, and the piece de resistance, a billow. The son correctly guessed that a billow was a pillow with Bill's face on it. This year, Bill proudly announced that his mother would be receiving a Toasty Bill blanket to complete the set. The son could only marvel at how his father could sleep at night with such a lack of shame. Bill replied with a grin that his head rested easy on his billow, adding that they were actually cheaper if you bought them in pairs. Meanwhile, the women of the family were planning an event of much greater sophistication. Judy was on the phone, finalizing arrangements for a tradition that carried a significant amount of weight in their social circle. She told her mother that she would see her on Saturday and expressed her love before hanging up. Judy turned to the room, her face glowing with anticipation. Her mother was looking forward to Mother's Day at the Palm Court. Bill, overhearing this, asked if she was referring to the tea thing they did every year. Judy corrected him with an air of mock indignation, stating that it was not just tea, it was high tea. To Bill, high tea sounded like a tedious ordeal, but for Judy and her sister Linda, it was a rite of passage. This year was particularly special because they were bringing Lauren, Judy's daughter, for the first time. Judy explained to Lauren that she was going to love it. There would be dressing up, beautiful flowers, and elegant candles. Lauren, however, was less than convinced. She remarked that it sounded like a more boring version of church. Judy ignored the teenage skepticism, explaining that this was a significant moment in a young woman's life. She remembered when her own mother finally thought of her as a woman because she had been invited to her first high tea. Bill, ever the jokester, tried to join in by asking to be included, but Judy reminded him that it was strictly for the girls. Bill joked about wearing a purple dress he had once seen his son in, leading to a playful exchange about a school play and the importance of picking a side in the family. The light-hearted atmosphere was suddenly interrupted by a loud, familiar voice calling from outside. It was Louise, Bill's mother. She did not believe in the concept of knocking or calling ahead. She burst into the house, announcing her arrival with a theatrical flair. Bill sighed, realizing his peaceful morning was officially over. Louise announced that she had decided to spend Mother's Day with her Billy boy instead of making him buy her a silly gift. Bill asked about her other son, Johnny, wondering why he was not taking care of her. Louise explained that Johnny was in St. Louis visiting his own mother. When asked why she did not go with him, Louise launched into a critique of the woman, calling her manipulative and lacking in boundaries. Bill and Judy exchanged a knowing look, recognizing the irony in Louise's complaints. Louise began to describe the burden of motherhood, detailing the long hours of labor she had endured for Bill. Bill tried to stop her before the descriptions became too graphic, but the damage was done. Louise then mentioned that it would be fun to get dressed up and go somewhere fancy. Bill, seeing an opportunity to solve two problems at once, suggested the high tea at the Palm Court. Louise was delighted by the idea, having always dreamed of going there. She believed it was a classy establishment and even mentioned taking her Beano, which was presumably another Bill-themed item. The complication arose when Judy realized that Louise expected to join the existing reservation. Judy took Bill into the kitchen for a private, hushed conversation. She was adamant that Louise could not come. This tea was a Michaels family tradition, and she did not want Louise taking over the entire event and making it about herself. She feared that the presence of Bill's mother would ruin the experience for Lauren's first time. Bill tried to downplay the situation, arguing that it was just old ladies drinking tea and eating tiny sandwiches. However, the situation escalated when Louise called the Palm Court herself and managed to move the reservation to 9 o'clock in the morning, so they could also drive out to see her childhood home in Joliet. Judy tried to explain the concept of tradition to Louise, but Louise played the victim, lamenting that she would be the only woman in the family not invited. The tension in the house grew as Judy's own mother, Helen, arrived. Helen was the polar opposite of Louise, and the two mothers immediately began a subtle war of words. Helen complimented Judy on her hair, while Louise complained that no one noticed her own hair changes. The living room became a battlefield of passive-aggressive remarks and competing needs for attention. Louise complained about sleeping on the couch at Bill's house, while Helen defended her own home. The arrival of Lauren only added to the chaos. Lauren had a surprise of her own. Since her mother had emphasized the importance of traditions, Lauren decided to start her own. She announced that she was going to spend Mother's Day outlet shopping with her grandmother Louise, using a $100 gift card that Louise had given her. Judy was horrified. She insisted that Lauren was coming to tea, but Lauren was lured by the promise of shopping. A heated argument ensued about what constituted a tradition. Judy, feeling the pressure of the day, tried to exert her authority, insisting that everyone would have a happy Mother's Day, whether they liked it or not. The conflict reached a breaking point in the kitchen. In a moment of frantic movement and misunderstanding, an accident occurred. Judy, holding a knife while preparing food, turned around just as Louise stepped up behind her. The result was a minor but shocking injury. The family rushed to the hospital, where the atmosphere was thick with guilt and confusion. The nurse assured them that Louise would be fine and only needed a few stitches, but the emotional damage was much deeper. Bill, in his typical fashion, joked that he was impressed Judy had actually done what everyone else had only thought about. In the hospital room, a doctor named Dr. Gibbons entered to check on the patient. Louise introduced Judy as the lovely daughter-in-law who had stabbed her. The doctor, sensing the underlying tension, handed Judy a pamphlet on managing rage. Judy was insulted, insisting it was an accident, but the doctor simply advised her to stay calm. Louise, sensing an opportunity to be cared for, began to list all the things she would no longer be able to do for herself, such as cooking, washing her hair, or even pulling up her tights. She looked at Bill, but Bill made it clear he was not the one responsible for the injury. As Mother's Day finally arrived, the family prepared for the tea at the Drake Hotel. Judy was still reeling from the guilt of the accident and the stress of the past few days. She forced Lauren into a dress that the girl clearly disliked, using the ultimate motherly weapon, the guilt of labor and sacrifice. Lauren relented, but the atmosphere was far from celebratory. Louise continued to milk her injury, bringing laundry for Judy to wash by hand because she was too incapacitated to do it herself. At the Palm Court, the tea was served, but Judy could not enjoy it. She felt a nagging sense of guilt for leaving Louise out, despite the woman's behavior. She confessed to her mother and sister that she felt terrible. However, the peace was short-lived. Louise appeared at the hotel, having convinced Bill to bring her there. She claimed that in polite society, one is invited to tea after being stabbed. Judy was reaching her limit. The situation turned from bad to worse when Louise, perhaps due to the painkillers she was taking, had a fall down the stairs. Back at the hospital for a second time, the family gathered in a state of exhaustion. The doctor noted that the painkillers from the first injury had actually helped Louise stay limber during the fall, preventing more serious damage. Judy was distraught, wondering if she was subconsciously trying to hurt her mother-in-law. Bill tried to comfort her, but the realization hit Judy hard when Lauren pointed out how similar Judy was to Louise. Judy had used the same manipulative tactics and guilt trips on Lauren that Louise used on everyone else. This epiphany led to a moment of genuine reconciliation. Judy sat down with Louise and asked for forgiveness. She realized that they were both strong-willed women who loved their children fiercely, and perhaps that was why they clashed so often. Louise confessed that she was simply jealous of the time Judy spent with Helen. They shared a tender moment, and Judy even told Louise to call her mom, though she quickly corrected herself, realizing the absurdity of the situation. In the end, the family found a strange kind of peace. As they prepared to leave the hospital, they noticed Helen, Judy's mother, sitting at a table with a group of strangers, laughing and having the time of her life. She explained that the table was simply more alive than the one she had been at before. It was a reminder that while family traditions are important, sometimes the best moments are the ones that are unplanned and full of unexpected joy. The day had been a roller coaster of emotions, from the humor of the billow to the drama of the hospital visits, but it ended with a deeper understanding of what it meant to be a mother and a daughter.